I have the beautiful, beautiful Mare Cromwell with me today, and it's such an honor. I met this beautiful priestess and goddess through Judith sending me some information about a 1,000 goddesses gathering, creating a grid around the earth and bringing in love and compassion and all the things that I resonate with and I'm aligned to. And so when I was forming the summit, my intuition said, you need to ask Mare Cromwell. Like, she has this connection with Mother Gaia. And so she was actually one of the very first priestesses that I reached out to. And she's so beautiful and has done so many amazing things already for Mother Goddess and Mother Gaia. She's written a couple of books, The Voice of Mother Gaia, as well as the Great Mother Bible. And she has, well, I'll let her explain all the work that she's been doing, but she's been doing incredible work of uniting goddesses all around the world to bring in compassion and love and a healing connection with the Great Mother Gaia. So it's so good to have you here, Mare. It's such an honor and a blessing.
Thank you. I'm really honored to be here, Schamet. It's just a joy when you first reached out to me, and I love that we're doing this. And I love the vision of the work that you're doing because it's so important right now with everything that's going on the planet.
Yeah, it is. And the work that you have been doing for years. So thank you. Yeah, it's good that
we're weaving it all. Yeah, we're weaving it all together. As women, we weave it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and there's a lot of weaving to do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So my first question for you is, what does the goddess mean to you?
This is a powerful question for me because when I first got the instructions from Mother Gaia that I was to organize 1,000 goddesses gathering and a formal event, with all these women attending and bringing forward the goddess energy, I had to really grapple with the word goddess because I've been surrendered to serve Mother for many, many years. I've studied with Native American teachers for 25 years and other elders, but I never thought of myself as a goddess. And I had this image in my mind that was like, that's not really you, Mare. Because I'm a tomboy. When I was a kid, I was out in the woods playing with my brothers, making forts. I was not into girly girl stuff. I was not into dolls. And so I had this image that I needed to let go of, honestly. And the image was of this diaphanous gown and this woman lilting through the meadow, which I now know I can do at times. But what I also came to realize is the goddess is the most powerful divine feminine energies within us that we can all tap into. Even if you are a carpenter in your workday and you love to get out there and chop trees compassionately, reverently, you can still embody the goddess within yourself in how you live your life and the energies that you tap into that tap into the great divine feminine spiritual realms. And so there are a lot of women who are turned off by the word goddess because I've encountered this also. And I really want to express to everyone that you have the goddess within you. And it's a beautiful, beautiful, pure, divine feminine energy of compassion and wisdom and groundedness, and to the point of being very connected to Mother Gaia and the divine feminine realms beyond Mother Gaia. And the masculine, men can embody the goddess. They actually have the goddess potential within them because we all have the yin and the yang within ourselves. So this term goddess is something I've had to do a lot of work around because it's not something I embraced originally. I was like, no. But Mother's like, yes. Yes. So it's a really, really lovely, soft and powerful compassion and wisdom within us that is so needed right now on the planet because we've been dealing for years with an element of the masculine that has not brought forward compassion and wisdom.
Yeah, thank you. I love that you brought that up actually. And I don't think anyone else has brought that particular wisdom to the summit. So I love that so much. I remember there was this, a woman that she kind of flailed herself around and called herself a goddess, and but she was not very nice and not very kind. And so, I think there's an element of that kind of, I don't know what it is, ego or masculine, feminine, that to me is not what a goddess is, but in some ways it feels like it's kind of given the word goddess a bad name in a way. Do you know what I mean? Like thinking that you have to wear these gowns and, be a certain way, when to me, just like what you just said, it's about our connection to Mother Gaia. For me, that's what the goddess means.
Mm-hmm. And I think you're speaking on something that's really, really important is, I mean, I've had visions for years of the new earth coming in. And when we fully achieve it, we're going to be beyond ego. We're going to know that we're one with everyone and everything around us. And there's no hierarchy. And so there's a lot of wounded masculine aspects of ourselves as women too. And, you don't, the ego, if it's really out of balance, is a wounded aspect of ourselves. And it doesn't even really need to be termed as it wounded masculine or wounded feminine, but sometimes it's easier to look at it that way. But the goddess is about bringing everyone together. It's about, deeply holding space in a sacred container where all needs are met. Everyone's needs are met, including the sacred ones that are not just human. So it's a whole different sort of mother kindness, serving. And we're kind of like leaning into, in the conversation here, what does priestess mean too? But there's a lot of overlap there. Yeah.
Yeah. So what does priestess mean to you?
Huh.
I know, big questions, aren't they?
Well, those of us who really acknowledge ourselves as a priestess, I think, number one, we know we're here to serve. And our listeners, we have the capacity to tune in on the spirit plane to the mother. And it could be Isis priestess, it could be Bridget priestess. There are many different kinds of priestesses. And all these goddesses in the spiritual realms, because we didn't even talk about that in the term goddess, is that we as women and men can embody the goddess energy. And then there are those in the spirit realms who are goddesses. And there are like 10,000 of them. I mean, there's countless numbers of them all around the world that different cultures call on, that are actual spiritual beings. So as a priestess, we have, most of us, if not all of us, who see ourselves as priestesses in this lifetime, have been priestesses in other lifetimes. And I've had people say to me, oh yeah, you lived at so many different temples and you were a priestess, da, 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 da. And then when the Judeo-Christian culture came in, then you became a nun, because that's where women went to still cultivate the divine. Is we lived in the convents then. And we didn't use the term priestess, but there was still that energy that was within us. So what does priestess really mean? It means honestly that I wake up every morning and it's like, how can I serve? How can I support Mother? How can I help bring forth the healing, the balance, the wisdom that has gotten so far afield? We have gotten so far away from it. How can we bring it back and then take it to a whole other place where it's even more evolved than it was 10,000 years ago, 8,000 years ago, when, the mother goddess was really recognized by all pagan peoples. And indigenous peoples have never forgotten Mother. They all have names for her in their language all around the world. So, yeah. And then I think also the priestess role can mean teaching. It can mean helping others learn how to connect to the mother and to creation, and how to really walk a humble spiritual path. And I want to really stress the word humble, is that, we are vessels. And in the Lakota tradition, they say the hollow eagle bone. Those who are really far along on their path consider themselves a hollow eagle bone, where you can say either the ego is so balanced or the ego doesn't exist anymore. And so spirit just moves through, and they're guided by spirit, and they serve, and they're there to help the village, to support people, to heal people, to hold the space in a sacred way. And so a priestess walks that path also. Yeah. Now, I want to share a story, though, because I never thought of myself as a priestess, and I never thought myself as a goddess. This is like part of the evolution of Mare. And 3 summers ago in 2017, I was going through a very rough time. And we all go through rough times. Even if you consider yourself a priestess or a goddess, we're still human. We have, and it's good. It's good to be tested, because that's how we grow. So I was having a very rough few days, and there's a sacred mountain that's very close to me that I go do ceremony on as much as I can. And I got a very clear message from Mother Gaia later that afternoon, and it was in June. The day was long. She said, you need to go to the mountain and do ceremony. There's stuff here that you need to let go of. And so I took my smudge bundle, my feather, and went to this one area that I go to that's very, very special on the mountain. And the first thing I was told to do was, light your smudge up, get the ceremony going, call on Mother, call on creation, call on your spirit teams. And now you need to basically shed your old skin, this wounded piece of you that is so rattled right now, that is holding you back from really stepping forward. And I literally imagined a metaphysical skin around me, which we all have. And I literally peeled it off, starting from my head, going down my arms, my legs, my feet, even to my toes, and bundled it all up metaphysically. I had this little bundle in my hands. And then I was told, you need to bury this now. So with my hands, I'm digging in the leaves, and I put it down there and I bless it. And once I finished that, I knew that I wasn't finished. There was more. I'm like, okay, Mother, what now? She says, I want you to stand straight up here. And I want you to acknowledge, to know that you are a Gaia priestess. I want you to own this now. I was like, wow. So nobody else told me. I never went through an initiation with any other trainings. I mean, this is just straight me and Mother and the nature spirits and my spirit councils. And I knew that I was being surrounded at the time. I knew that there was a large team around me of my guides, my guardians, and Mother. And I said, okay, I acknowledge, I am owning this. Thank you. I felt so much better afterwards. Just letting go of that old skin, just peeling it off. And sometimes I lead events where we do sacred fire ceremony, and we do that ceremony of is peel off your old skin. It's not serving you anymore. I could benefit from one of those right now. There's always new layers that come forward. Oh, okay, we need to shed that one.
Yeah. I love that story so much. That's, when I was I 20, early 20s, I went and did Vipassana, a 10-day silent meditation. And I actually felt like I was shedding an old skin, like what you're talking about. And then I was eating my lunch outside on the grass, and I actually had a snake come up, a real snake, this was in the US, and shed its skin right in front of me. And then I had the warm skin, but silent meditation means for 10 days you can't talk. So I couldn't tell anyone what had just happened, but it was like, oh my God, that's
huge.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was that transformative experience. So yeah, that's a beautiful, beautiful transformation. Thank you for sharing.
Wow. And for the snake to do that right in front of you, Oh my, I mean, everything was so sent. That snake was sent. That message was like, this is for you right now.
Oh
But
yeah.
that's powerful. That's powerful medicine.
Yeah, it was powerful. I had gone through a really huge transformative experience. I had been crying every day for 3 days. It was like shedding a skin, and then the snake to do that right in front of me was like an external representation of what I had just gone through. It was like,
Hmm.
okay, yeah,
Yeah, and I'm sure you know this, but when we're really connected to Mother, she sends us messengers all the time. And so, but that's powerful for the snake to do that in front of you. That's huge. Very, very powerful.
yeah,
I say that was an awakening unto
yeah. It
itself.
certainly was. It was like,
And it must have been hard to not tell anybody. Oh boy.
oh boy, was it ever? Yeah. I think about 23 years old at the time, so it was a long time ago, but yeah. Oh, I love that story. I love that that was your awakening into your priestesshood. That's really powerful. And so tell me more about how you connect in with Gaia and these messages come through you. Like, I feel like that's very connected to the summit and what we're talking about with the goddess and the Mother Earth. Like, I would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, I had a very powerful experience in June of 2012. And honestly, just 4 days before this experience, I had been diagnosed with lymphoma then. And the doctors had said, they're all in your abdominal area. Uh, and I was freaking out, but I had already committed myself to doing a ceremony with a gifted Algonquin man. And he calls her Gaia, just straight Gaia. And Gaia, he's been communicating and working with her all his life. And she actually appeared to him one time as a wispy column of vapor. It's a wild story. Uh, but in early May of 2012, she came forward to him and said that she wanted the two of us, him and me, to do a ceremony for her, and that this was going to be very powerful, very healing for her. And so he contacted me, and we were good friends. And I said, well, yes, of course. Because I already knew at that time that my life was to serve Mother. I mean, I'd been an environmentalist for years. I'd already studied with a Cherokee teacher, apprenticed with her for 14 years. And so then I had this diagnosis of lymphoma. I was not feeling well. I was scared, just terrified. But I still knew I had to be part of that ceremony. And so I drove up to the outskirts of New England, and we did the ceremony in a forest. And he said to me just prior to us starting, he says, I'm going to be bringing Gaia's energy and her consciousness into your energy body, but I don't know how you're going to disconnect afterwards. And in the moment, I just said, well, I'm not concerned. Whatever's meant to happen is going to happen. So we did the ceremony. And right at the end of it, when he finished, Mother started talking to me very, very clearly, like you're hearing me right now. And she said to me, the first thing she said was, if you surrender to me to the extent I will ask you to surrender, I will help you heal from the cancer without the doctors. And I'm like, I'm there. Yes. The answer is yes. Big, bold letters, capital YES. And things started happening very fast after that. I mean, I drove back to Maryland. I needed to find a primary care physician. I didn't even have a doctor at the time because I had been working with the Cherokee teacher, and she and I had parted ways the year before. And I went to this one doctor's office to explore whether she would be my physician, and all the computers crashed in her office while I was there. She's like taking notes on her computer as we're talking, and then everything went down. And I looked at her and I said, does this happen very often? She goes, no, this never happens. And I went, oh. And I knew in that moment that I was not meant to work with her as her patient. And I mean, Mother called me to the ocean to do ceremony 2 weeks later after the ceremony with the Algonquin man. And I was up all night doing ceremony. I was on the beach doing ceremony. I was in my car doing ceremony because I got kicked off the beach. But what she said to me while I was there was she started downloading messages in me. And she said, I want you to put the other book aside that you're working on right now. Because I'd hired a writing coach and I was working on this whole other topic. It was related. It was on the divine feminine. Um, and she said, I want you to write Messages from Mother Earth Mother, the title of the book. She gave me the whole table of contents, what each heading was going to be. And then she gave me the first message, which was to us women, to her daughters. And then I came back to my place in Maryland, and the book was written in 5 weeks. Now, it's not that fat of a book, but literally every day I was just talking to Mother and having these conversations. And it was freaking me out what was going on. I thought the world is going to think I'm crazy. My family is going to think I'm crazy. I mean, I'm from a very traditional Catholic family in Baltimore, and they already knew I was out there because I'd been studying with Cherokee teachers and I was a park ranger in my early 20s. And but this took it to a whole other level. And so, that book was written in the context of a woman named Sarah meets Mother in the forest, and Mother has messages for the world. So every weekend, Sarah meets Mother in this sacred grove. Yeah, so that's the first book with Mother, but that's how this really kicked in. And I look at it all now and I deeply understand that this is all soul contract work. Like, I agreed to do this before I was born. And I've also come to understand that I have an ancestor 6 generations back on my mother's side who was Irish, lived in Ireland. And she was a medicine woman. Now, I'm sure they didn't use the medicine woman term there. I think she was considered a healer, priestess. Again, her name is Agnes. I even know her name. And apparently in every generation on my mother's line from that ancestor, there's one girl that's chosen to carry this forward. And my mother was chosen in her generation, but she couldn't do it for a variety of reasons. And I was chosen in my generation. So my life has gone off in this like really whacked out direction, considering my family. But I think any of us that know we're on our path, is like there's a really deep peace with that. There's a deep sense of I'm where I'm meant to be. Once you really, you have to get over how different it is, depending on how insecure you are and all that. But this is kind of being long-winded, but that's how this really kicked in.
I love your story, Mare. So relevant. So beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's deeply healing and needed for people to hear, because I know for me, coming into my priestess, like I was a priestess in the closet, in my cave, thank you very much, hiding. And then coming out, like I came out and then I put it back in, and then I come out and then I and I cried and I was afraid and like all these emotions of being seen. I've got friends that are Christian. I've got friends that will just think it's crazy. And, I've got, I think, I've had certain people jump in there and try to save me. They think I'm lost, and so there's a lot that comes up, and it is scary to come out with who you are. I mean, I know I've been a priestess in many lifetimes. Friends that have known me really well, they're like, oh yeah, of course you're a priestess, but it's all people that, it's the people that don't understand. And there's a lot. And so my next question for you, is, what does the redemption of the feminine spirit mean to you? Which is another really big topic. So
yeah, no, that's a huge topic. And I want to actually, in answering your question, the redemption of the feminine spirit, I really want to speak to what you were just addressing there, that you didn't bring forward specifically, but the redemption of the feminine spirit is deeply acknowledging and learning to love our feminine self in a way that our culture has not encouraged us to do for several thousand years. And those of us who are moving forward on this path have stepped forward to be public about it, to talk about it. I think it's probably 100% across the board that we all have past life memories. of losing our lives. You know, I have a number of past life memories of being martyred and killed and burned and hung, and not very pleasant things, and tortured. Oh my God, tortured.
Yeah.
And so to walk the path of healing and forgiving all those who have hurt us and perpetrated all of these actions is a part of redeeming who we are as feminine beings, divine feminine beings, because forgiveness is a huge aspect of it. And it's a huge aspect of the healing that's needed right now and is happening, but not enough in our culture. Is we have all been hurt. There are men who have been hurt by the patriarchal system. I had a man sit on a couch across from me and cry and tell me, and it really woke me up. He said, Mare, men are hurt by the patriarchal system too. Not every man's in power. Not every man is the one who's wielding the big stick and making the megabucks. There are a lot of men who have been very, very hurt, and women. So I think we as women need to remember that and hold compassion. But the redemption of the feminine spirit is also really acknowledging and calling out on the spirit realms to those who are ready and waiting and willing to support us. I mean, I was in a place last night where I called a friend, and he and I do a lot of spiritual work together, like meditation and prayers. And he's a powerful guardian for me, honestly. And I said to him, you know, I'm going through a funk right now and something's going on. And so he talked me through it, and we like looked on the spirit plane, and there were some things going on that needed to be cleared. And then I said, you know, somebody's just come into my space who's really beautiful. The whole energy is shifted, because I was going through like a bout of anxiety, which is not like me at that level. And so he said, well, it's a divine feminine being with a cape. And the Virgin Mary is a part of my team. I love the Virgin Mary. And I never, ever thought that I would be working with her as closely as I am now. And she honestly sits on the same spiritual council as Mother Gaia. There's a powerful spiritual council, which really is the council behind the Thousand Goddesses Gathering Global Grid. They're called the Family of One. But so the Virgin Mary came in last night to hold me and to basically create sacred space again within my space to support me. And so I really want to put that out, that redeeming the feminine spirit means we don't do it alone. We can't do it alone. And if we only knew how many powerful divine feminine beings are in the cosmos that are yearning for us to call on them, that are yearning to support us, to help us feel stronger, to help us heal, and for them to gift us with their energy so that we can bring that forward through us, as like the Lakota say, the hollow eagle bone, or the conduit, the channel. We're really embodying them to bring the healing forward. So I think that answers your question.
Yeah.
But I think it's the redemption of the feminine. You know, if people only knew the history of the patriarchal, the Judeo-Christian religions is a much shorter history than the history of the great mother religions or belief systems. So this window of time that we are in right now, that I like to think we're at the tail end of because it's gotten so imbalanced, it's a much shorter window of time than the great mother love, the reverence, the honoring, the procreativity of the mother and all that has been birthed here on our planet and birthed within the cosmos. I think it's a humble thing to remember that, or if you don't know that, to think about that, to consider that.
Yeah.
And the mother is here. She's never left us. It's just that our cultural conditioning put her into the place of fiction, which she never has been. And she's calling us home. That's one of the messages that I put out again and again and again, is Mother's calling us home, and to reconnect with her and her heart. from our energy body, our hearts, our root chakras to her heart, because this is really critical for helping to birth the new earth.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you've just already entered the next question, which is, what does the awakening mean to you?
Yeah, this is an auspicious time to ask that question, because we're in the 7 days before the solstice, December 21st. And there are a lot of people talking about the energies right now and what's coming into the planet and what's circling the planet. And there are those who are saying that there are crystals that are going to be awakening in Uluru, there in Australia. And awakening, I'm feeling kind of challenged with this term in a way, even though I talk about it a lot. And probably because I've been in a really quiet phase for the past few months going through a healing adventure, that to awaken is to remember. I truly believe it's to remember who we are. And I'm not talking about remembering who we are, that we're human and we're plodding along and we're doing our best every day, which we are. But we're also far beyond that. We're radiant beings of love. And the cultural conditioning from the past few, 2,000 years or so or more, has not really encouraged us to deeply, deeply know and believe that we are beings of love. We are streams of energy and consciousness that have been gifted this body here on this earth. And this is a really beautiful planet to be on, and a remarkable planet to be on. But all the inculcation of sin and shame and darker energies that have been controlling us, I would say that the awakening is the shedding. And just as we were talking about, the snake coming to you and shedding its skin in front of you, we are all being called to realize that the cultural conditioning that has us so beaten down is only an illusion that we need to release. And it takes courage, it takes support, it takes compassion. It's helpful to not do it alone, because it's hard to do this alone. It's knowing you're not alone, knowing that you are incredibly loved, and we all have spirit teams. But the whole planet's going through a shedding. And, the whole planet is going through an awakening. And I'm really blessed because I work with some very gifted nature mystics. And the nature spirits and Sasquatch and those in those dimensional spaces, they are celebrating right now. They've been celebrating for months and months and months how high the energy is becoming on the planet. And a lot of them are coming out of hiding because the energies got so dense that it was very hard for them to be here on the surface. I mean, literally, there were nature spirits like hiding behind crystal walls deep down in the Earth's multidimensional planes. But they're coming forward now because the awakening is here. And they're far ahead of us. They're so far ahead of us. But they're calling us to join them. They're calling us to remember who we are. And, it's an ongoing process.
I love it. I love it. So exciting, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, this is an amazing time to be alive. It's not always easy. Like, there's a lot of fear circulating the planet right now, and it's hard to not get caught up in that, because it's in the human emotional multidimensional planes. But we don't have to be bogged down with that. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying that to myself. Too.
Yeah.
I am. I really am, because it's hard not to absorb all that.
Yeah. You've mentioned something about carrying the energy of the earth as well. Was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that, because I do feel that sometimes I do that as well as an empath, and feeling so connected to the energies and what's going on, with the earth. I can feel it in my body. I can feel it in my soul. And you mentioned a little bit about that. For all the empaths that are, feeling all the different energies. I mean, because quite literally, I'll be so high, I'm feeling so great. And then, just a few hours later, I'm feeling terrible. And it's nothing to do with me. I'm feeling the energy of what's going on in the planet. So I was wondering if you could, do you have any tips or wisdom about how empaths can cope with that? Because I know that's you've been going through that yourself.
Yeah. I think one of the wisest things that we can learn to do is to discern what is ours and what's not ours. Because as an empath, we pick up all this energy, emotional energy. And so I have learned to ask on the spirit plane, and I dowse too. I learned how to dowse, where I will literally go, is this mine? And I'll get a yes or a no. And if it's not mine, then I call on my spirit teams and I say, please clear this from my space. Please clear this from my energy body. And it's an ongoing practice, is because energy is always moving. And, when I'm out and about and like I'm going to be going to the grocery store after we finish here, I've learned how I need to tuck my energy body in, because I don't want to be the sponge that is picking up the person across the aisle from me and their sorrow. I want to send them compassion, but I also don't want to be carrying their sorrow home with me, because that's not serving me. And I will also say that, empaths make for the greatest healers because of how we can feel and then help to shift when we develop the skills on our spirit teams to help others come out of their funks, whatever it is they're grappling with. But it is a journey of, understanding that it's all energy and a lot of it is not ours. And, I also want to share, because as you were starting to ask me the question, I thought, that's an interesting way that you're wording that, is that Mother Gaia is actually really ecstatic with what's happening on the planet right now. And there are a lot of people who feel that she's punishing us and that she's really, really angry at the humans. And in many ways, she's frustrated with certain groups of humans, but her love for us is so powerful. And to tap into that love is the most healing thing that we can do. And so, you and I talked about how I'm going to be offering a gift and I'll be doing a recording separate than this, about connecting to Mother and her heart. But I really want to stress that we really are surrounded by so much love. And yes, Mother is wounded in certain parts of the planet, but I also want to say that the fires that are happening and the floods, the hurricanes, are actually cleansing dense energies that have accumulated in certain parts of the world. There's a big cleansing that's going on right now as part of the awakening, as part of the birthing of the new earth. And so when everyone looks with horror at the forest fires, like it's terrible, it's terribly destructive, what they're not realizing is that there's a big cleansing that's happening too. And some of it is, I'm trying not to make this too simplistic, because some of these fires should not have been started. They were started for the wrong reasons, and that's not right. However, when they do happen, there are just so many dense energies that have gotten stuck in the lower multidimensional planes here on Earth that it's serving. In many ways, these extreme weather patterns are serving. So it's a different way to look at it. And again, it's energy.
Yeah, wow. That's a really interesting concept, because it takes the victim mentality out of it.
Yeah, which is never helpful. I mean, I would say that's another piece of the redemption of the feminine spirit, is healing our wounded feminine and healing the victimhood that so many women are caught up in. And realizing that when we point a finger at that masculine woundedness that did this to us and hurt us and blah, 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 what we don't realize is that in other past lives, we did the same thing. We were the perpetrators then. We're all like revolving and recycling and bringing back to us karma, to heal through, that we brought forward from previous incarnations. So if people are stuck in the victimhood mentality, you're not going to grow. You're going to hold on to this disempowered place that's never going to bring you forward to wake up and to really claim who you are as a radiant, sacred being. Because part of that path is forgiveness and understanding that we've hurt others. We've all done it. So, I like that you brought that word victimhood up or victim, because when you really understand it, as I see it, we all chose this. We're choosing our experiences. Like what I've been going through with my health adventure this fall, on some level, I did choose this. I don't fully understand it yet. I'm still sort of processing it. It's part of the adventure.
Yeah. It's interesting, as you were saying this about the awakening being the remembrance. I just had a memory that I remembered just as you were speaking about how, and I don't know if this was somehow programmed into me during the time that I was a Christian, or if this is a remembrance from a past life, but that we're all here now. All timelines are here for the Great Awakening, to, just like what you said, to clear and cleanse so that the new earth can be born. And so I literally don't know where I have remembered that from, but it just came forward. So I thought I would share it.
Yeah, that's powerful. Yeah, that's where it starts to get into, the quantum physics and the awareness that time is just another dimension and it's all now, which is so hard to really wrap our minds around, and I know we will be able to do that more and more as the energies continue to rise on the planet, but it's like the eternal now. It's a lot there.
It's fun though, isn't it?
It is. It really is.
Yeah. So, Mare, thank you so much for your beautiful contribution to the All Access Pass. For all of you that are listening, we also did a meditation together about bringing our energy back together, and that's going to be in the All Access Pass as well. It was a lot of fun to do that with you, Mare.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, it was great. So she brought in her gifts and tools, and I brought in mine, and we did a little collaborative meditation, which was really beautiful. So, Mare, can you explain a little bit more about the gift?
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is put together a short recording that is an abbreviated version of the Mother's Love Cord Connection. And this is something that Mother asked me to do. She gave me a message in the winter of 2013 that she misses all of us humans, all of her beloved two-leggeds, which is what we are. She misses all of us being sacredly connected, energetically connected from our hearts and our energy bodies to her heart. And so I'm going to do a brief one, but if you go to my website, which is just marecromwell.com, there is a longer one that you can download for free. So that's also available. And if it's okay with you, I want to mention that I do teach a year-long course called The Great Mother Love Way about how to be far more connected to Mother Gaia, and also with the spiritual council that she sits on with the Virgin Mary. That is the council that is the overarching sort of guiding council for the Thousand Goddesses Gathering Global Grid. The course goes into various practices, learning how to create altars, claim your space. There's a bit of a focus on being a priestess or a priest, because it's for men also. We actually even discuss dragons, and it's really fun. So it's a year-long course. So I just want to add that for those who may be interested.
Oh, great. Thank you. And if you email me the links, I can put the links next to your name and your bio and your information so that people have that.
I'll do that.
Too. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And what was the other thing? Oh, yes. I have one last and final question.
Okay.
If you could say anything to humanity, what would it be to help at this time?
What's coming forward is something the Cherokee teacher I was with for those 14 years taught me. Because when I arrived at her door, I was so depressed. And she told me that we have forgotten in our culture to celebrate life. that life is meant to be a celebration. The fact that we are gifted with this amazing body on this very beautiful planet of great deliciousness and sensuality and smells and tastes and experiences, but that to be able to wake up every morning and thank Creator and thank Mother Gaia for the gifts that we have, and that let it be a day of celebration. Focus on that and focus on gratitude for all that you're blessed with. I would say that is a really key message, is we're supposed to be celebrating. It's not just on Christmas or whatever holiday or your birthday. It's every day is a gift.
Yeah. Thank you. Oh, that's beautiful.
You're welcome.
I love that so much. This is such a beautiful, beautiful planet, this blue and green planet traveling through the cosmos as we rest upon her, fully supported.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It goes by really fast too. So we got to sing and dance and love and joy as much as we possibly can.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. One of my favorite songs is Girls Just Want to Have Fun by Cyndi Lauper.
That's such a great song. Yeah.
Yeah. I turn it up really loud while I'm cleaning the house, and it makes me feel like that celebration for life, just really tapping in and tuning into that, which is one of the highest vibrations, actually, isn't it? And you can
it is. Very, very, very much. That's a great song. What great energy for cleaning your house. That's brilliant. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love 80s tunes. They're so happy and full of life and full of sparkle and full of wonder, and I think, I love that you said that, because that's quite right. We need to resurrect that sparkle, that joy. And what a great time. I think a lot of people, like you said, are really thriving, and then other people are really struggling. So how can we bring in that sparkle, that magic, and really thrive and bring in the new earth together? And I love that you're, right before we go, can you talk a little bit more about the 1,000 goddesses?
Sure. What it is once a year, and it's toward the end of October. It's an invitation to everyone to do ceremony wherever you are. And this year with COVID, people did ceremony on their own, and some did online ceremonies that were organized. And it is to call in the divine feminine. And as I was saying earlier, there are all these goddesses that are waiting for us to work with them. And the list is really, really long. And so it's an opportunity to basically call in the compassion, to call in the wisdom, and to create a grid of ceremonies around the planet to raise the energies on the planet. And again, it's based on the Tibetan prophecy that when 1,000 goddesses or Tibetan Taras unite, it will shift the tone of the planet from fear to compassion. I mean, fear has been so rampant in our mainstream culture, and our mainstream culture is dominated around the world, that we have to lift it up and clear it. We really need to do that. And so it's so needed right now. And actually, I will mention that there's a free meditation, or it's a visualization on my website too. It's called the Gaia's Oneness Grid, because what we're doing with the 1,000 Goddesses Gathering Global Grid is we're activating or amplifying Gaia's Oneness Grid. And it's an actual energetic grid around the planet that we humans are responsible for helping to boost. And this is going to help to clear the denser energies and help to bring in the new earth. And so once a month, Mother is calling for us to do this. And it's an actual visualization. It's free on my website. It's called Gaia's Oneness Grid. And it's a very powerful healing for those who do it, because you're literally calling in these energies that clear your energy field as you're sitting in the heart of Mother energetically and amplifying this luminous love through the planet. I mean, people just have powerful healings doing it. I love the feedback I get from people.
Right.
But that's what it is.
Can you send me that link as well, and I'll put it in
I will.
The material? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sending you a whole list of links.
Yeah, send them all to me.
I'll do that. No problem.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I can speak firsthand for being part of it this year, and it was so activating and so powerful, and that's how we connected and met. But I felt such a connection to that grid, and I had already on some level known about the grid. And so then when it was, activated, it was like, that remembrance. And I think it's so important. So for everyone that's listening, definitely I'll put the information, but definitely tune in and create, a network of women to get together and really keep activating this grid. So thank you, Mare. I know you've put a lot of work into it. I know it's been channeled through you, and it's so important. I'm 100% in support, and I will be there next year with you. Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, it's very powerful.
Yeah, and I also want to add that part of the call is to invite the masculine forward to be part of it, to wake up the divine masculine, because we have to have that in the birthing of the new earth. We have to have the healing of the wounded masculine. So the ceremonies are invited, those who are leading them, to consider having men there to hold sacred space, because it's very healing for them.
I love that, Mare. Yeah. I don't think I've told you.
Very important.
I don't think I've told you the story, but I drew a line in the sand. I was like, I'm going to just have goddesses in the summit. It's about the goddess. It's about time. It's all about women. And then my guides are like, nope, the men have to be involved. Like, they're part of this too. And like, they need the healing. And like, so, I don't have very many men that are keynote speakers, but I do have some very powerful, beautiful men that are holding that vibration and are part of the summit. And I love that you said that, because it is about the healing within all of us, whether we're a woman or a man. It's the divine feminine and the divine masculine. So yes, bringing the men into the circle. And I've just recently opened up my women's circles to men as well, because I'm feeling that same.
For you.
Yeah.
I mean, this Shoshone elder that I worked with for a couple of years, when I was entertaining, doing some events just with men or just with women, he said the time of separation is over. It's time for us to recognize the oneness of who we are. And there are certain times where it's appropriate to just hold it as just men or just women, depending on what it is you're really doing. But at the same time, the invitation is to consider that we're all learning from each other, and we're all learning how to hold sacred space for each other, for the healing to come forward. And we could talk a long time about this, but thank you for opening up, your summit to the men too, because it's powerful, needed.
Yeah. Thank you so much. What a pleasure it's been, and so much love, so much appreciation, and so much honor to you, Mare. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And I'm honoring you for all of your really hard work and your vision and putting this together. This has been really a joy.
Thank you so much. So much love. Namaste.